Welcome to day one of nine red candles, and I have the wonderful Dorothy Morgan here with me, and we are going to be discussing the astrology of right now. And if it looks like I'm sitting at a weird angle, and if I look at Dorothy strangely, it's because my monitors are messed up and it's kind of hard for me to look her straight in the face with where my cameras are. And I can't do too much about that, guys. But I'm working on it. I've spent 2 days reconfiguring my office, so enough of my petty problems.
Yes. We have a whole fair amount of retrogrades going on right now. So.
Yeah, this is not a good time to be playing with electronics. But the first thing we're going to do is, if you've seen 9 red candles before, they're on. We have people showing up. Yay!
Awesome.
Welcome.
We're going to have to look at it. I'm going to look down. Sorry, guys. Hello, everybody.
Okay. Yep. I'm gonna give it another minute or so before I read the opening and we light the candles. I will. And we're going to start with the candles and the Yooper stone, which is really cool. So I'm going to go to that, and if people miss it, they'll have to see it at the end. But anyway, these are the candles. And I'm going to do the Yooper stone first, because once you light a candle here, it's very glary. But this looks like sort of your regular old kind. I could find it in my alley or buy it at the garden store stone, right? Until you put the right light on it, until you illuminate it. And then can you see the orange things that have shown up all along in here? These are found on Lake Michigan. They're called Yooperlites. I put a little note to them about them in there. They're absolutely fascinating to look at, to watch them glow, And I had a very different sort of theme for the 9 candles about a week ago. And then I got the Yooperlite. I got the Yooperlite stone. I got the black light from a friend for Christmas, because as you all know, I was not around on Christmas. I was being sick. So what I think the theme of this is that when we get in the right light, we really change. And we need to understand how to feel the vibrations around us. So what we're asking at the opening of the candles is, in this new year, 2022, starting at the full moon, we light these candles to expand our vision, to give and receive heart-centered love of understanding in the coming times of change. Guide our hearts and our awareness to the most beneficial path individually and collectively, and find balance through the movements of the frequencies. And there goes candle 1. And if you have another blessing or something you want to add when the 9 candles are being lit, throw it in. Throw it in any time during the show. And now, as Dorothy reminded me, I decided to redo my office's electronics with Mercury retrograde, which is not the best time. But anyway, I'm doing my best to look at Dorothy and look at the camera and not look like I'm looking at the world sideways. And
I'll be looking at my computer.
Okay.
Because I have lots of notes in front of us. I want to.
And what we're going to really be talking about is everything I've seen and read, and I listened. If you go to Dorothy Morgan's channel, she's done a show on the full moon. And yes, happy MLK Day to everybody, because I know a lot of people are off. We want to talk about that. A lot of them, all of the people, and Dorothy talked about it too, about this being a time of healing and trauma and change. And I think we've all been so traumatized for the last couple of years, and I think it's time for us to figure out how we're going to move forward and how we're going to make positive changes in our life. And if I'm off, Dorothy, just say, nope, that's not what this moon does. But
no,
okay,
you're on track, and I'll you have your feelings, because you.
Oh yeah.
You are who you are, so you're going to have your insight, your feelings, just like everybody else, and I'll have
yours.
Mine. Yeah, it's all good.
So, with that, I welcome Dorothy to the first day of the garden. I couldn't think of a better way to pick it up, to start it off, than to deal with astrology, because I find astrology to be one of the sciences and one of the world of woo that I live in that is if you can tie into it and start to understand against your own chart and start to follow the movements and the energies, that's what you're going to need, because this next year is going to be an energetic ride. And with that, I turn it over to Dorothy to talk about energies.
It sure is.
People can't hear Dorothy, but other people can. I don't know.
Really?
Okay. I hear you just fine, so.
You can hear me fine. Okay. I'm going to double check. You can hear me fine. I see my microphone is working.
Mm-hmm. And everything says it's broadcasting from here, so.
Give me a second. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's better. Yes, that's much better.
okay. I didn't have this on.
Oh, well, no wonder. Thank you, Sin. It's not your hearing. Don't get your hearing aids checked.
All right, very good. Hi, everybody who can't hear me. Oh, that's right. All right, the only way I can see who's commenting is on my phone.
Okay.
So, hi, guys. All right. So, yeah, full forecast on my website, DorothyMorganAstrologer.com, and, the YouTube channel. I have the ab lib. I don't read the forecast word for word, but let me get to where we're going today. So today, which is January 17th, we do have that full moon coming up. It is later this afternoon, somewhere around Eastern time. It's 6:47 p.m., so that'll be fun. So we'll have a beautiful full moon just coming up out of the horizon. Of course, Central Time, it's an hour earlier. And so with this full moon, the full moon in Cancer once a year, it's in its own sign. So this full moon in Cancer is usually pretty intense. And it always is, because the moon, when she's full, is emotional and intense to begin with, but in her own sign. We really just want to monitor ourselves, especially what we've been going through. But still, as we move through the rest of the week, just monitor your feelings and do what you can to, care for yourself and nurture yourself, because we're looking for comfort and just a sense of feeling of calm. Now, we're not all feeling that. I actually feel a fair amount of anxiety today. It's just in the air. There's just so much going on. Because besides the full moon, this full moon is deeply connected to what we call the lunar nodes, and that's the collective path of humanity. We all have it in our charts personally, but it's the collective connection. And the full moon is opposite the sun. That's what a full moon is. But Pluto and the sun are conjunct. They were conjunct yesterday on the 16th. And so what that represents, that Taurus, Scorpio of the lunar cycles, and then the full moon, the Capricorn and Cancer full moon, we're in a deep period of change. And those lunar nodes are like they're where the eclipses will happen when we get to eclipse season. So that's why I mentioned the Scorpio and the Taurus, because it's that deep, intense transformation and evolution that the next 18 months will show us as the eclipses are in those areas, and through that. Pluto rules Scorpio, so that's why it's connected. They all make this, in the middle of a chart, the full moon and those lunar nodes make this thing called this mystic rectangle, and it's in the element of earth and water, and that's the feminine, the yin, the receptive. So if you are sensitive at all, you are feeling this like so high that it's hard to handle for some people. So you need to figure out the way for you. What's the best way for you to stay grounded and stay in yourself and stay here and present? I find breathing works, 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Helps lower the anxiety of things and just brings you back to present moment. So with this Pluto intensity of this full moon, we also have, Pluto is intense. It's like the shadow self. It's the dark night of the soul. It's a lot of things that where we go in to really meet who we are internally, and to process that and bring that to the surface, so we're able to face our shadow, do shadow work, and grow from that place. And that's what this full moon represents. on the personal level. So I want you to look at that on a personal level. I like to do astrology based on personal stuff, not necessarily into the politics. However, this Pluto, this full moon is also on the United States Pluto. We know we're in a Pluto return. We will be engaged in that. The United States, we will, as an entity, will be engaged in that for a couple of years to come. The Pluto will move forward and back and forward and back, and we continue to have aspects to the Pluto, and this full moon really will expose a lot. So I pretty much suspect that if we turn on the TV today, or I think this happens every day, but there will be some things being exposed, some things being shown to us today, the 17th, and and of course it will continue for a long time, but this full moon will show us what's going on nationally, globally stuff too, of course, but I don't want to go too far. So I want us with this full moon, we need to face that shadow stuff within ourselves, whatever that is. And then when we see it in the United States stuff, of course, some of the tougher pieces of Scorpio is, deception and being distrustful and jealous and cruel and extreme and violent and disruptive, all of those things. And those things have to come out and have to come to the surface for us to address it.
Right.
And to work with it. So whether it's national and you love politics and you are an activist and you want to get out there and work towards something that you want to change that's important for you, go for it. If you just want to look at how it is sitting in your own life, then that's important. That's just as important, because not everybody's an activist, but it's just as important that you take care of what's important for you and your family. And so those are some of the things that we're working on our emotional life. We're working on those moments of awareness, and that's really the bigger things that I see that are coming through with this full moon. And super powerful, super powerful.
Well, somebody just mentioned they had vertigo. Yeah, thumbs up, everybody, because I don't have dear sweet Sharon Sipe here telling everybody to thumbs up me this show, and Dorothy and I together here. I talked to another reader last night, and he and I are working on some different things, and he's had vertigo. I mean, he had vertigo so bad on Friday night, and it's not something he normally has. This started about 6 months ago, and there's no physical cause for it. So it's download time.
You think that's what that is? I want to look it up. If it shows up, this is a fabulous reference book. It's a little old. You can look up not every word in the English language,
but a lot. If you can look that up, because he and I were talking about it, and this happened to him before, and he had it for a couple weeks, and finally he was sitting quietly at home, and he was like, "This has to stop. This has to stop." And he heard a voice, and it sounded like one of those voices over the loudspeaker at the airport, and it said, "Download complete," and it went away.
That's fantastic. Yes, Vertigo is the planet Pisces, the planet Neptune, and we have Neptune in the sign of Pisces. Jupiter has been in Pisces for just a short time again now, and as they are coming together, we have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. We'll be in the Pisces time of year in another couple of weeks. So we'll have a lot of planets in Pisces at the same time in that February time frame, February to March, and that is so Vertigo, it rules Vertigo. However, it doesn't mean everybody has Vertigo, but it also represents the Pisces energy is not being able to see the truth.
Yeah.
Not being able to see through the fog. If you've ever been in fog or a snowstorm, you can't really see very far. So, excuse me, you have to trust your instincts. You have to trust, that path. And that's all the way into the spring almost. Yeah, actually it is. It's all the way into the spring where we have planets coming together. April 17th, I believe, or is it the 12th? April 12th is when...
Is that when Jupiter does its
Jupiter and
thing.
Neptune conjunct at 23 Pisces.
Right.
The last time they were conjunct in Pisces was just after we discovered Neptune.
Oh, wow.
It was in the 1800s. I can't remember the exact time frame. I think it was like 1840s or 1880s. I don't quite remember right now. But that's the last time they were conjunct in Pisces. They conjunct every 12 years, however.
In that particular sign.
In that particular sign, this is the first time. So there's a lot of things between what was going on back then. There was a lot of spiritualist movement. There was a lot of medical things being discovered back in the 1800s that a lot of people thought was just witchcraft and it wasn't real. A lot of conspiracy theories around new medical situations back in the 1800s, and we have that going on today. It's
I can
amazing.
relate to that these days if you watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we'll feel a little unsure, confused, as well as the Pluto return happening. So it's going to be important for those of us and everybody here listening that you know who you are, you meditate, you follow your intuition, you trust what you know, because that's what's just as important, even when we don't have all of the information. Because with Pisces, the energy of Pisces, I mean, that still is viruses. We cannot see viruses with our eyes, so it is stuff that's hidden from us. So this can still just keep on going for quite a few more weeks until they separate, and then maybe by the time we get to the spring and a little more fire in the sky, we'll have an opportunity for things to clear. So your theme was in the light, right? What was it? In the right light, hidden things glow. So find your hidden light, your light that might be under a bushel, bring it to the surface, start to work with that, because that is really important. Absolutely important for us these days.
What I find kind of fascinating about Yooperlite stones, other than the fact they're funky and they glow and all that good stuff, but the guy who found him in 2017, and he just happened to carry a black light with him while he was going along the shores of Lake Superior, picking up lovely agates. If you've never seen people collect stones along the Great Lakes, it's fascinating. I grew up along the Great Lakes. I thought everybody had great stones like that on their lakes. Found out that's not the truth. But he was walking along, and he happened to have a black light, and he shone it, and all of a sudden, all these stones glowed at him. And the reason they're called Yooperlites is because it was found on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and the UP of Upper Peninsula, those people call themselves Yoopers. And if you've ever seen The Curse of Oak Island, those brothers come from the Upper Peninsula, and they wear hats occasionally that say Yooper on them. And it was already a phrase people used to mark themselves. And this guy started collecting them up, and you can buy them online. They're kind of interesting. Of course, you have to have black light to make them work too. But it's fascinating to see something look so plain and realize what's really hidden inside it. And I find that all the time with stones and crystals that I work with. A crystal may not look really magnificent. You start pairing it in the right combinations, and they're going to do wonderful things. And I think we're getting called at this time. What started in 2017 that's when, and this is not astrology, this is science, astronomy, but that's when our solar system sort of rotated out of this gaseous, it's not what it was, it's not a gaseous cloud, but it was a cloud that protected us from a lot of the subatomic particles. And we emerged from that, or started to emerge out of that in 2017, and a lot of other things came to light. 2017 and on, when you start looking back at your life, you're going to find out that was the time when a lot of heavy-duty stuff happened. And I happen to I have several rabbit holes that I run down, and one of them is a guy named Rory Duff who does ley lines, and he does with it on the Earth, but he was talking about how the sun is throwing off a lot more cosmic energy because of being outside that cloud. And that's actually changing the power lines that are on the Earth, which has nothing to do with astrology. It has to do with where we're standing. But there's all these power shifts, and the planets are saying that they're there. So the more ways you can look at these confirmations, the better. And one of the things that we're being called to do right now is to start finding our tribe, our family, our group, the people we connect with, finding people who have similar similar likes and maybe dislikes, but people we can work with to move forward, because it's not just meditating on our own and sitting in the corner and getting to know our own navel. I've heard you talk a little bit about it, Dorothy, but a lot of the plants are calling us to go into a greater collective and understand what's happening in the greater collective. Is that true? Or am I off base completely?
No, you're not off base, because over the next couple of years, Pluto is going to slowly sneak his way into Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And Aquarius is all about, the collective, humanity as a whole.
Doesn't
and
it
the
do that?
collective.
Doesn't it do that in December 2024?
It does it, grab my ephemeris. It does it a couple of different times, because Pluto will move forward in a year. Pluto will move forward about 3 degrees and retrograde back 2 3/4.
Yeah,
So,
it's like the world's slowest.
It is, but Neptune is just as slow. Actually, Neptune and Uranus, Neptune and Pluto have been within the parameters of a sextile, which is 60 degrees plus or minus 4, since the beginning of the turn of the century. So they've been together. So everybody on the whole planet has that configuration in their chart, every single person. So when does it get in there? The first time it pops into Aquarius will be, looks like March 24th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
But it immediately retrogrades, and it pops back out in June 11th, 2023. So it only stays in there for a very few short minutes, a few short months.
In astrologic time.
Right. And then it comes back into Aquarius January 21st, 2024.
Okay.
And then it retrogrades back out. It does. So it goes back and forth like 3 times. Let's see. Yep, it retrogrades back out in September 2024, and then it comes back in. I believe this is the final time, so 3 times it gets to 0 Aquarius, and that's right around November 20th, 2024, and I think that's the last time it is done with Capricorn. It is done, yes, it is done breaking down the whole system. Capricorn is our government, it's the systems, it's our foundation, and Pluto has been in that sign since 2008. 2008 was the beginning of the housing, was the first big housing market bubble pop, and so this is expected. And so Pluto moving through Aquarius, and I don't know how many years it takes, because its motion is very elliptic, so it takes a little shorter time in some signs and a lot in others, and I haven't looked that up yet. But it's it'll take. Oh, somebody here just said that Pluto elliptic orbit, fastest was Scorpio, slowest is in Taurus, and so it's square both of those signs when it gets into Aquarius. So we'll see. I don't know how long it takes. I'm not going to count it right now, but it'll be 20-something years. That's usually typical.
We have a lot of months to discuss. But the reason I was focused on that happening was because of every time they were talking about the energy lines on the earth, the ley lines, and they were saying that every on the solstice and the equinoxes, the ley lines get back and they get straight, and they get to where, if you douse for ley lines and you know where the map is, you should be able to find them. And they've said that the ley lines each, in the last 2 years, each time they've gone back during those periods of time, they've stayed straight longer and they've grown wider. So something is energetically coming in and feeding that. And I think that's kind of a fascinating thing. That's why I said if you can start to follow your own chart or follow a chart that's meaningful to you, you can start to work with those energies. So maybe one day you'll decide you're going to go out and find a ley line near you. And actually, one of the people that was talking about this is going to set up an interactive website where people can go find their ley lines, which will be kind of fun. What about those poor people who have the moons already in Cancer?
They're born with it? Yeah, this is your home. It usually feels comforting.
Yeah, I have not been freaked, but I've talked to several other people that have just had the strangest, freakiest things happen to them in the last little while, and they're kind of like, what God did I piss off, you know?
Well, there's some other things too. You would have to look at it.
You have to look
as an
at your whole
overall-
chart.
Yeah, the overall, configuration is what we would have to look at to know for sure, because there can just be something that's going on, and not even in the natal chart. It could be going on in the progress chart, solar arc. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at what's going on for the individual, and not just like transits in the sky. There's many ways to process the chart. What's going on behind the scenes. What's that spiritual growth? That's usually inner and private.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we have a lot going on these days, just because we have Mercury, Venus retrograde, and she only retrogrades every 18 months, but she's retrograde in Capricorn, so she's been stirring up again all of these foundational things. Venus rules our love relationships and money and finances, and she will stir those things up. So if you're feeling insecure about those things, but it would vary from person to person depending on where this is for you. What area of your astrology is stirring up insecurities, whether it's relationships or values or finances. And now Mercury is retrograde. Mercury retrogrades this year. He starts all of his retrogrades in an air sign, and he retrogrades back into Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Forward again. So he just retrograded in Aquarius a couple days ago, and that's the electronics but thinking and changing our mind, and then when it gets back to Capricorn in another week or so, then we'll be able to feel a little more grounded about it, and then it moves forward again, and they all come together, and everybody's happy. So by February 4th, for everybody on the planet, Mercury will be stationed, will be direct by then. We won't have any retrograde planets for a while. From February 4th until I believe it's April 29th when Pluto retrogrades.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an open period of forward movement. How good is this? Does it mean everything is positive and moving forward, or things that we don't like are expanding even more?
It's what we live with day to day. But all we can do is take the circumstances that are around us and do the best that we can with them, and try to do the most positive and be the most positive within ourselves. I mean, that doesn't mean you don't acknowledge when ugly things happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dorothy knows him, but Jeffrey, and he runs a company called Ripe Color. He's the one I read with on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. His last weekend, the apartment below him, the guy blew a lithium battery up in his computer, and Jeffrey's living with friends in Brooklyn now. His apartment got smoke damaged. Yeah. And he's rebuilding his life, and I've talked to him every day, and he's been really good. He's not one of those people who says, "Oh my God, why'd this happen to me?" He said, "Okay, now what do I have to do? Pick it up and go."
What now? Yep. What now?
And
that is life.
Mm-hmm.
That is life. Yeah. Yep. Indeed.
And we've had
vertigo recently, and she finally went and had it checked out, and just yesterday, and she got to the doctors, and they did and yesterday she had brain surgery.
Ew.
She had something at the base of her spine.
Yeah.
I mean the base of her skull, and she hadn't been well for a couple months with it, but she finally just did something, and it was like, oh my God, and they took it out just like that, all within a couple hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why don't always think every ailment or thing that bugs you is a spiritual message. Yeah. When I've had arrhythmias, I mean, they've now checked everything out, and there's no other reason for my arrhythmia other than I am who I am. So you really need to be sensible about following the signs of your body, but you need to be aware of what's going on around in the world so that you can move forward and progress. What's sort of, somebody just said, Pluto's elliptical. Venus is still direct. Is Venus still direct in early February?
No, she's retrograde right now.
She's retrograde.
She goes direct on January 29th. Let me double check. I have my notes. Yeah, January 29th. is when she goes direct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's good. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they do go direct, and you know, retrogrades aren't negative. This is something Dorothy really has kind of pile drived into my brain. Retrograde means to redo, rethink, reestablish. And I know one time she and I were talking, and I went in and I cleaned out my closet during the retrograde, and it was really easy. And it's really hard for me to part with things. So it was really, because I'm a Taurus, my stuff.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I cleaned it out, and now I can actually hang my clothes up and see what's in there. So, there are ways to use energy that sometimes we consider negative, and they're not at all. And I'm just trying to think. Oh, I have one more thing I did. I pulled a card for us because I wanted us to have, besides the Yooper, I pulled a color for today. And it kind of fits with what Dorothy's saying. It's blue.
Nice.
And isn't that pretty? Doesn't it look like the stars bursting out? And it says, activate your healing power.
Yep.
And what that means in this, if you've not seen this deck, Secret of Language of Color, I love it. I love using it. I love expanding and talking about it all the time. And blue. Blue activates healing powers, increases vitality, and has a calming effect on people when they feel nervous, manic, or overexcited. It contains the antiseptic qualities that heal burns, stop bleeding, relieve fevers. Blue can even increase your own metabolism. Use the blue sort of light to assist healing. And if you get in a point where you feel like you need healing, imagine a blue ray of light coming down on you, and it will help you heal. And I think a lot of us are feeling just vulnerable right now.
Yeah. Yep. There's so much stress. So we have to figure out how to dissipate it, or just at least find our own releases.
Mm-hmm.
As Charming's mom says, I was born during a Mercury retrograde. Yeah, I suspect that there's a lot of people born with that because it happens 3 times a year. So what that means, if you're curious, is just that when we're born with that, we tend to, not knowing anything else about your chart, if we're born with Mercury retrograde, we tend to process things a little more thoroughly than if we weren't born with that. However, you wouldn't know a difference because it's all that you know, because that's what you're born with. So you wouldn't know the difference. You wouldn't realize that, oh, I process more than other people. It wouldn't mean anything to you because it's just who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a negative to be, honestly, nothing's a negative. Everything, we can use, right? I mean, there are things that are tough, there's no doubt about it. But, yeah, so when Mercury is retrograde in the sky, especially if it's in the same zodiac sign that your Mercury is in, then you'll feel akin to it. It will feel normal for you. Yeah, and everybody else is going and creating all their own problems. That's exactly what it is.
That's right. A couple of comments here is Yooperlite has selenite, and it's a special kind of selenite, and I put in the description below what it's called, and it's selenite, not sodalite, and it glows yellow or orange. They're the only 2 colors that I know that it glows. And we had a person who's watching us right now who's apparently very good at multitasking because she just booked a session with Dorothy.
Oh.
And somebody I know, you'll like her, Dorothy. She's a nice lady.
Okay. That's excellent. Oh, somebody else was born with Mercury stationary. Oh, angel star karma. All right. Yes. That's wonderful. The stationary moments of those days, especially when we're talking about Mercury or Venus, they only stay stationary for 1 day, meaning the degree, and we get specific to the minute. And those stationary ones, those are the days where we may feel the struggles. That is the typical that we hear about retrogrades. But being born with it, you would be such a some people, it can manifest differently, very hyper-focused. When you are focused on something, again, depending on the sign that your Mercury is in, those qualities will show up, but you'll be very focused on making sure your message is perfect.
Mhm.
And then other people could have that, and again, depending on other things in the chart, could have learning disabilities and need like more quiet, not a big group environment, not, well, we say, for lack of a better word, learning disabilities, but just learn very differently than what society says we should all be stuffed in a class with 15 other little kids our age or whatever. That doesn't always work. So we would need like to go out of the room to learn the important things, or just learn better at home without the distractions. There's many ways it will manifest, but that's that. So Mercury stationary, definitely focused.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, for sure. Yeah, somebody did book. I just got a notification. Thank you.
She did. No, she said she did it. She did it. Okay.
Yes.
The messages for today is if you shine the light properly on yourself, that you'll see your inner glow. And we're going to blow out the candles now. There they are. And I'm going to try and make the Yooperlite glow so you can see it one more time. Let's see if I can get it out far enough so it doesn't blow it away. Yeah. You can see it, I think, if I get it.
Yeah, I can. Oh, right there. Oh, that's pretty. You can see the gold flecks in it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Okay.
Nice.
And I'm going to blow out the candle, and if you're lighting candles with me, do that. I had people chastising me the first time I did 9 red candles because they didn't blow the candles out, and then they said, I'm going through candles like crazy. I said, no, you gotta blow them out and then light them, and by the time we get to the 9th day, we will have gone through. These are the subject matters for you in case you're interested. Dreams and visioning groups is going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to talk to a reader Andrea, Lilac Lantern, who's had people creating dream and visioning groups, and it's so weird because when she started talking about it, I was like, okay. And then my current rabbit hole that I go down, Rory Duff, he was talking about how one of the things he's having people do, if they don't want to go out and douse for ley lines and things like that, they're creating visioning groups or dream groups and meeting in the other realms, and how that teaches you how to cross. Then
so Neptune and Pisces. It's
yeah.
Awesome.
and then day 3 we're doing visions and meditations, and Kim from Intuitive View will be here that day, and she is going to talk about how this year brought the change and how she had the revelation that being a reader and just using her things at one person at a time wasn't what she was really supposed to be doing. So she started a lot more mentoring and teaching and expanding her realm that way. And then day 4, I'm going to be talking with Allie Martin, who has had a lot of different readers with a lot of different disciplines, kind of like a thing I did a while ago where I tried to find somebody who did everything and say, how does this relate into the world of woo and what we're doing? Day 5, Dr. Gail's going to be here, and we're going to be talking about aliens and how people use alien energy and how that fits into the world of woo. And then day 6 is going to be Danny Shea, and since I spoke with him a couple times recently and said, you have to go watch this latest film of Rory Duff, and if you're interested in where that video is that I saw, it's about an hour and something long. It's a little bit of a time commitment, and he's very British, and he makes sure you have a cup of coffee before you listen to him. But he says fascinating things. You just have to stay awake till you get there. But Danny Shea and I are going to look at Rory Duff's latest things, and then day 7 is going to be Scott Allen, and it's awakening your skills and sharing your gifts and what people go through to do that, and he's willing to discuss that. And then day 8, I'm going to have Diane Aquarius is going to be here, and we're going to talk about life journeys and the life journey that she's had. And day 9 is going to be Sheila from Celtic Tarot, and it's Living Life with Joy.
Good.
So we're kind of trying to progress, and I want people to understand you can contact and be in touch with all these vibrations. You just have to open yourself up to it and try. And I hope all of you will come back or you will catch it later because this will be playing all day long. And once it's up there, kids, it's up there.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Dorothy for coming in, doing the kickoff on this again. And Dorothy's part of the myth and legend of my grids. The first grid I ever built.
So.
Yeah, the first grid I ever built for myself before I knew about any of you or any of this other stuff. Dorothy, I built the grid, and my statement underneath it was to have prosperity and fun things come into my life. And the next day I opened up. Hi, Sharon. Sharon finally showed up. I opened up my email, and there was an email from Dorothy, and it said, I drew you out of a set of people who contacted me recently. Would you like
free reading? Yeah. I would. Yeah, when people would join my email list back then, I would give
and so
for free reading. Yeah.
So I wrote her back and said, I've studied astrology. I mean, this was so long ago, we weren't even doing Zoom. We did this on the phone. And I wrote her back and I said, I mean, it's so old, man. And I wrote her back and said, well, I've studied astrology and have actually drawn my own chart the old-fashioned way. I was using an ephemeris, and I studied astrology. So she had a wonderful progressed chart, and everything she said was right. And I was so impressed by how personal her chart was. She wasn't taking me off to guess what's happening in Australia or anything else. She talked about my life and the things I needed to know, which proved very, very, very helpful. So if you're looking for a good astrologer, the second we're off of here, sign up for hers. I'm still doing readings till the end of this month. I'm doing 12-month readings. I did one today, and the lady got a big surprise because her life's going to completely turn over in August, which I'm looking forward for her, for that to happen. And I said, you got to tell me. You got to call me and tell me back.
I do that once in a while. It's like, oh, this is so exciting. Please let me know how this turns out.
Yeah. Or
I mean, I don't remember. I have so many clients. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't.
But I really mean it.
Well, one time when I was doing table readings, I had, and for those of you who follow tarot, I had a woman who had all 5 tens in a 10-card reading. Half the cards were 10s. 10s are the end, stop, done. And I looked at her, I said, please call me in 3 months. And she did, and it was right. Her job changed, and then she went to something else, and her living circumstance, I mean, every single circumstance in her life changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some big transits right there.
Yeah, I don't know what her other chart looked like, but that's where we were. And so contact Dorothy if you want astrology. Come back here for the next few days. We're going to talk about some fascinating subjects that I think are going to be fun. Somebody wants the information about Rory Duff. He's at roryduff.com. Or if you go into YouTube right now and type in Rory Duff for search, I think you'll find the interview he had with Heather Ensworth. And if you don't know Heather, she's an academic woo-woo person. And she's fascinating. She's got an incredible body of knowledge, and I really enjoy her interviews with people. And I just stumbled across this one and said, oh, completely changing all my shows. So life's like that these days, kids. Anyway, say goodbye, Dorothy.
Awesome. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.